Hey there, how there, hello there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to a very special Above the Rim basketball tournament prelude, a primer, if you will. We have ourselves a tournament thing in Above the Rim basketball. As of right now, Above the Rim basketball is only available in college basketball sets, not pro basketball sets, which took me off because I'm itching for the NBA and all that. And then I would just get rid of PC Replay basketball quick as a bunny. So anyhow, to do above the rim basketball, they have what they call these team sets and all that. So what you see here is like sets of different seasons that you can pick up 51 to 64. For example, that set, like it's like $18 American per set, per team set, per set. And you have all these schools, they have certain schools that did well and all that. So like, you have some legendary schools. Like you have schools that you don't think were that great, like Bowling Green, called Bowling Green State at one time. You have New York University, New Mexico, Furman, George Washington, Duquesne, and all them. Like you get these teams for free in a sense, well, with the set, and then you can put them in any thing you want. You got the 54, 64, 65 to 69. That's every team between those seasons and all that. You see Davidson, Dayton, Brigham Young, Columbia, Evansville, Detroit, Loyola, Michigan, Niagara, Oklahoma City, even with one. Winston-Salem, and then you got 70 to 74. Those are the schools from like Long Beach State, Kentucky State, Hawaii. They usually just give one school thing, and qualifying for the NCAA's was not the easiest thing in the world. 75 to 79, as you see right here, like all the schools and all that. Mercy, Charlotte, Wake Forest. And then 1980 to 82, you see those schools and all that. So, got that. 83 to 83 and 84, just those two seasons and all that. Like almost all the schools that qualified for the tournament in real life. And then you have 85 to 86. So that's the 84, 85, and the 85, 86 guys and all that. But when the tournament went to 64 teams and all that, so you have the schools and all that, and you have the rosters and everything. Of course, there's a gap. This is 88 to 91. Yeah, you see those schools like East Tennessee, Richmond, they should be there. Where's the 91 Richmond squad? They should be in there. That's the team that freaking was a 15 seed and won. And then you have 92 and 93, those schools and all that. Santa Clara. And then 95 and 96, like those guys. And 98 and 99, the schools that qualified. And all schools like Valpo and all that. And on the left, there's like seasons and all that. I've done a lot of Trny's 1984 top 48. For 83, 84, they give you the top 48 schools because the NCAA tournament was at 48 teams at one point. 1987, they give you just the 64 teams that qualify for the 87 tournament, like Southern, Temple, Western, Kentucky, Xavier, AAT. 1994, they give you the 64 teams. That's my boy Arkansas, with Pepperdine, Rider, Texas, UCLA, Wake, and Wisconsin, and Tulsa, and then all that. So yeah. So on the right hand side is a group of 64 things. When you do a tournament, you can do like seedings for a tournament, but I do like everything else. So here's what we got. We got schools. The first 48 schools you see from 94 Arkansas to 99 Yukon all have won national championships. That I have the national championships from all that. Every year from 1951 to 1999, except for 1997, I have the champions. So I put them in no particular order. You got 94 Arkansas, the team, my favorite team, because, I'm an Arkansas guy. And that's the school I chose as my NCAA school after seeing them win the national championship, my first NCAA tournament, watching as a 9-year-old. 91 Duke, shocking UNLV in the semifinals because UNLV was looking for the repeat. And then they won the 92 tournament thanks to Christian Leitner's last second shot to beat Kentucky in the quarterfinals. 1953 Indiana, 1952 Kansas with Claude La Follette, I think. 51 Kentucky before a couple of their players got in trouble for point shaving. 1958 Kentucky. 1989 Michigan. Yes, Michigan won an NCAA tournament. That was in 1989 when they beat Seton Hall on 2 Ramil Robinson free throws. 1964 UCLA, the first UCLA tournament win and not the last. 1969 UCLA. 1985 Villanova, the Miracle Cats. The first tournament with 64 teams was 1985, and they were the 8th seed in 1985. Villanova, they're still the lowest numbered seed to win a tournament. They beat Georgetown. They played 79% shooting in the second half, which was great. 1959 Cal with, I would say Jerry West, but that's not right. Cal. 1978 Kentucky with Jack Gibbons doing great in the finals against Duke. 1956 San Francisco with the legendary Casey Jones and Bill Russell. Well, alongside the 55 squad. 1970 UCLA, 1971, 72, 75 UCLA. Well, of course, 75 was when John Wooden decided to retire, and then LA hadn't won a title for 20 years till 1995. 1961 62 Cincy going the double. They almost had the triple, but they lost in the final. 1976 Indiana, the last time a perfect regular season had been held. There have been plenty of teams who have gone into the tournament undefeated, but they lost once. It's only one loss. 1986 Louisville. It was the time of never nervous Purvis Allison, who was supposed to be this good guy, but he fumbled. 1983 NC State. Jim Valvano and his crew that had to win the ACC tournament to get this far to the NCAA tournament, and then they beat Pepperdine in double overtime. Many close games. I think Georgia gave them a spook, but then they faced Houston in the final, and then of course that was when Wittenberg took up a shot, which was a half shot, half pass, and Lorenzo Charles dunked it with nobody around him. So NC State won the title, and Jim Valvano was a champion. 1993 North Carolina. That was the year, that Donald Williams was named the MVP of the tournament, and that, of course, is a tournament in which Chris Webber did. The stupid thing is that, he got away with a walk. You can't travel with the ball. You can't take more than 2 steps without dribbling the ball. 1987 Syracuse. Now, of course, I goofed up. Now, 87 Syracuse, I forgot they didn't win the title. It was Indiana who won on Keith Smart's shot to beat Syracuse. But fortunately, though, there was a redemption arc. 1995 UCLA beating my Razorbacks, pissing me off in the process. 1984 Georgetown, finally, after so many mistakes, including the 1982 final, they won the title. Particularly finally got his national title. 1954 LaSalle with Tom Gola, who was a pretty good shooter. 79 Michigan State, with one Magic Johnson, smiling all the time, getting the national title. And of course, that Michigan State, Indiana State, one of the highest rated college basketball games of all time. And let's not forget about the fact that Michigan State not only had Magic, they had some guy named Mike Bergovic. Never heard of him? Well, he was from Windsor, Ontario, so a Canadian got to be a starter in an NCAA tournament. 1973 UCLA, 1981 Indiana, with Isaiah Thomas, of course, playing in the shadow of the assassination attempt on Ronald Reagan's life by John Hinckley, which failed. And, there were rumors that they were going to postpone the NCAA tournament final, but the Secret Service said that Reagan's fine and it wouldn't be fair. 1988 Kansas, known as Danny and the Miracles. Kansas was this low-ranked team, and they looked terrible, but thanks to Danny Manning, they won the game. Ironically, the 88 Jayhawks won the same day as the Blue Jays playing the Kansas City Royals in opening day 1988 when George Bell hit those 3 home runs off Brett Saberhagen. 1967 UCLA, 1996 Kentucky. That was with Antoine Walker and what is his name? Ron Mercer, I guess. 1957, North Carolina playing Kansas in one of the longest finals games ever, a triple overtime championship game. Lenny Rosenbluth helped them out. 1968, LA. When they got revenge on Houston for beating them in what they called the game of the century at the Astrodome, which really shouldn't host college basketball. But yeah, LA got their revenge. 1980, Louisville, Dr. Dunk, Daryl Griffith, and then, ironically, the next year they lost on a buzzer beater by U.S. Reed of Arkansas. That 1981, that March 9th, was it? 1981 is got to be one of the biggest days in March Madness history because there were three massive games, buzzer beaters. Kansas State knocking down Oregon State, who had won 26 in a row. Uh, St. Joseph's shocking the number one overall seed DePaul, and Arkansas with U.S. Reed's half-court heave to beat Louisville. 1963 Loyola, who broke the double title for Cincy. Of course, Sister Jean would be proud of them. 1974 NC State, breaking UCLA's mark of 8 straight titles. And it was amazing to see David Thompson as they beat LA in the semifinals. 1966 UTEP, technically they were called Texas Western at the start, but this game makes them at UTEP. That's the team that started their 5 stars were all black, and the Kentucky stars were all white, and it brought racial equality to the forefront. 1977 Marquette with Al McGuire and his team like Butch Lee, who was an Olympic hero for Puerto Rico. 1982 North Carolina, a team with MJ, Perkins, Worthy, Jimmy Black, and there was this other guy. But anyway, yeah. But those guys, 1955 San Francisco, as I said, 1990 UNLV, the team that crushed Duke in the final by 30 points with Larry Johnson, Grandmama. 1960 Ohio State with one Bob Knight as a backup, and John Havlicek, I think, played for that team. 1965 UCLA, 1998 Kentucky, and 1999 UConn, because I was actually at 46 champions with the 16 sets, but then I needed to buy the 98 and 99 sets to get Kentucky and UConn. I could have just bought 97 tournament thing for Arizona, but then it would be like 98 and 99. I was like, well, what am I going to do? Anyway, so that's 48 teams. But instead of having a 48 team tournament, I decided to add 16 close but no cigar finalists. 3 per decade, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. Nothing after 2000. After 99. So each decade except for the 60s got 3. The 50s, I put the 57 Kansas squad with Wilt to Still Chamberlain, losing that triple overtime game. Seattle, I think that was Elgin Baylor's squad, but yeah, the University of Seattle took second in 1958. 1959, West Virginia lost to Cal. So yeah, West Virginia with Jerry West. 61 Ohio State, the team that should have beaten Cincy but failed. 1963 Cincy, who had a chance to three-peat but failed. 1966 Kentucky, who lost to Texas Western in that game. And 1969 Purdue with Rick Mount. I put that team in. 1970 Jacksonville with Artis Gilmore trying to win a title. 1978 Duke losing to Kentucky. I could have put 1971 Villanova with Howard Porter, but I decided not to. And wait, who did NC State beat in 74? It wasn't UCLA. I can't remember. Well, it doesn't matter, does it? Anyway, 78 Duke losing to Kentucky the close way. 79 Indiana State with Larry Bird playing for that team. He was with Indiana but left and decided to be a garbage man before going to the Sycamores. And that team did beat Arkansas in the quarterfinals on a last-second shot by Bob Nealon, pissing me off in the process. 1982 Georgetown, the team that lost to North Carolina in the finals. MJ with that 15-foot jumper, but it wasn't over because Georgetown still had a chance to win the game. But Fred Brown thought he saw Sleepy Floyd to his right, passed it, but it was James Worthy of North Carolina, and we won the game. 1983 Houston, the team that got victimized by NC State, Phi Slamma Jamma with Elijah and I would say Drexler. Yeah, Drexler was on that team too. Drexler and Elijah. 1987 Indiana, of course, the team that I thought lost. Well, you can supply them in Syracuse in a sense. 1993 Michigan, the team that lost to NC because of the whole Chris Webber thing. It's kind of weird that in 82, 87, and 92, 93, the three times New Orleans hosted the Final Four, something spooky happened. MJ's jumper, and then the Fred Brown terrible pass. Keith Smart's winning shot with 5 seconds left, and Michigan and Chris Webber's stupid timeout. 95 Arkansas, because I am an Arkansas guy. 94 Duke. That's Grant Hill. I got to give him some props. All right, so that's 64 teams. Create tournament. We're going to be doing a best of 7, but we will be simulating all the way through and all that. So we're going to load in all that. So this is the matchups and all that. The numbers you see are not the seeds, they're just what the order of operations were. So let's go through the matchups. You have the 55 San Francisco squad against 98 Kentucky. You have 78 Kentucky against 80 Louisville. Boy, battle Kentucky, that's big. You have Arkansas taking on 1970 UCLA. You have Larry Bird taking on 82 Georgetown with a young Patrick Ewing and Fred Brown and Sleepy Floyd. Wow. You have 76 Indiana against 1990 UNLV. UNLV did not go undefeated, but yeah. You have Larry Johnson versus Scott May. 83 Houston, Faisal Majama will take on 59 Cal. 88 Kansas will take on 93 North Carolina. So North Carolina, Donald Williams will take on Denny and the Miracles. 65 LA will be taking on Isaiah and the 81 Hoosiers. Seattle will now take on the 91 Dukies, who won their first national championship that time. 64 LA takes on 83 NC State and Jim Valvano. 96 Kentucky takes on 73 UCLA. Magic Johnson and MSU will take on 1953 Indiana. 1989 Michigan takes on 1960 Ohio State. Typical, they put Michigan against Ohio State against each other in a matchup. 1951 Kentucky against Mr. Chamberlain and the 57 Jayhawks. 56 San Francisco taking on 86 Louisville. So San Francisco, that's kind of 50-50. 87 Syracuse with Derek Coleman and crew will take on Birch Lee in the 77 Marquette squad. 1970 Jacksonville Artis Gilmore take on Chris Webber in the 93 Wolverines. 71 LA will take on Ewing in the 84 Georgetown Hoyas. 61 Cincy takes on 82 North Carolina with Worthy Perkins. That's what I thought. Worthy Perkins, Jordan Black, and a few other people. 69 UCLA will take on Texas Western. 52 Kansas against 59 West Virginia. West versus LaFayette. 74 NC State. David Thompson takes on 66 Kentucky with Pat Riley. 69 Purdue with Rick Mount taking on 62 Cincy. 63 Cincy takes on 57 North Carolina with Rosenbluff. My 95 Arkansas team goes on 85 Villanova. So battle of Razorbacks and Wildcats. Yeah, it's funny. A school that I cheer for against the team that won the title days before I was born. 8 days before I was born. 54 LaSalle will take on 99 UConn. 58 Kentucky taking on 87 Indiana. So Keith Smart will take on Kentucky. 72 LA takes on 92 Duke. That should be a good one. 94 Duke with Grant Hill and co will take on the 95 UCLA squad with Ed O'Bannon. 78 Duke takes on 67 UCLA. That's Jack Gibbon. 61 Ohio State takes on 68 LA. And 63 Loyola takes on 75 LA. So those are your matchups. Now, if you want to know a roster, you click on one. So let's go with the 64-65 UCLA. You see their real life stats, 28-2. Their schedule, because they played the 81 Indiana Hoosiers, stats and all that. Roster. It's like roster. Roster, you see the rosters and all that. Doug McIntosh, Edgar Lacey, Keith Erickson, future Laker, Gail Goodrich, future Laker, and Fred Goss, the starters. Kenny Washington, Mike Lynn, Bryce Chambers, John Gilbert, John Lyons on the bench, and then Vaughn Hoffman in play. So that's what you want to see here. Summary against 81 Indiana. So that's what they were like in real life, 26-9. The roster and all that. Landon Turner, Ray Tolbert, Ted Kitchell, Randy Whitman, and good old Isaiah Thomas. Whitman, I think, played for the Timberwolves, did he not? I can't remember. But Isaiah Thomas, yeah, his one team crew at Detroit. Jim Thomas, Steve Riseway, Tony Brown, Steve Bushy, and future Raptors brain trust Glenn Grunwald. There too. Phil Eisenbarger, Chuck France, Mike Lefebvre, and Craig Bardo. Also there too. Let's take a look at my Razorbacks. My two Razorback teams. 94. Summary, they were 31-3. So that year, you see their stats, the roster. Dwight Stewart, Yogi, I think his name Yogi, nickname Yogi, 34. Corliss Williamson, Sui, good guy, MVP, and played for the Raptors and the Pistons, among other teams, and the Kings. Scotty Furman, known for his lethal 3-pointers. Clint McDaniel and Corey Beck. You also have Roger Crawford, Darnell Robinson, Alex Dillard, Dilly Dilly, Dever Rimmick, Lee Wilson, and then the others of Ray Biggers, Elmer Martin, Ken Biley, John Angskoff, and Reggie Merritt. And then 95, our team, 32-7. Well, sorry, 94 Arkansas. Who did they play? They played 70 UCLA. Let's look at their roster. 28-2. Steve Patterson, Sidney Wicks, future NBA, Curtis Rowe, John Valley, Henry Bibby, a good player for the Lakers, and his son Mike played for the University of Cal. Kenny Booker, John Echo, Terry Schofield, Andy Hill, and Bob Siebert, and John Chapman. So no Bill Walton on this squad. You're thinking, well, that's great. And then you got 95 Arkansas, the team that we're trying to repeat. 32-7 roster. Dwight Stewart, Corliss, Scotty Furman, Clint McDaniel, Corey Beck. All came back. Darnell Robinson, Alex Dillard, Dilly Dilly, Reggie Garrett, Lee Wilson, Devin Remick, Elmer Martin, Robert Reed, not from the Brady Bunch, Landis Williams, John Escoff, and Reggie Merritt. And they play the 85 Nova squad. Let's take a look at their roster. Ed Pickney, future Raptor, part of the Raptors' first ever roster, opening day roster 95-96. Harold Presley, good player. Dwight McLean, Dwight Wilbur, Gary McLean, Harold Jansen, who was just, I think, a sophomore or something like that. Mark Plansky, good player. Chuck Everson, wild marker. Connolly Brown, R.C. Mazzamino, Rolly's son. Walter Dawson, Brian Harrington, and Steve Pannone. So, yeah, so you can look at all the rosters and all that all you want. Um, so just gonna give you guys, okay, take a screenshot for the Facebook, the digital the dice group because they like to see my stuff. And we'll start this off. So it will be every Monday and Tuesday, each round. So there's 64, 32, 16, 8, 4, 2. So the next 6 weeks, we will on Mondays and Tuesdays, because with time travel tennis and the ladies playing like 5 rounds of matches instead of 6. So it'll be 5 days, so Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So Mondays and Tuesdays will be figured for above the rim basketball and all that. And, we'll only tape if there's a game 7 on the horizon. So we'll just set stuff up and then we'll roll with it, I hope. Anyhow, I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.